escapes prepared yet.
You need to try and pick off the units as
Look at the shields on the mark.
Oh my god, the drone's gonna take this.
Hello and welcome back. I am Pain User.
And I'm Cat's Pajamas.
And we have game 2 for you guys between Six Jacks, CocoA, and WhiteRa, the one, the only, sponsored by Duckload. And WhiteRa winning game 1 in a pretty convincing fashion, but a little bit of a controversial GG followed by has left the game.
Yeah. I mean, like, just briefly to recap, I think we're in agreement. WhiteRa was way ahead. He was going to be able to reinforce better. He was going to be able to keep up the pressure. But we've agreed weirder things have happened. CocoA could have had an opening. He catches those units out of position, destroys that, and steamrolls a couple of production bases or something like that.
All it takes is one really good engagement, one flawless engagement where you just absolutely crush your opponent. And in StarCraft 2, I mean, in Brood War, I think things would have been a little different right there. But in StarCraft 2, battles happen so quickly, and there's so many minute little things that determine how much you win that battle by.
Right.
So if you hit a few great EMPs, if he had utilized Cloak in one of those battles a little bit better than the first time he attempted to, where he accidentally shot a Stalker and blew the whole operation.
Right.
Don't know exactly how that happened. Maybe just right-clicked on one of the Stalkers accidentally, but that triggered WhiteRa to immediately attack, burn all of his storms, and well, he absolutely crushed that push.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll see what both players have for us in store here in game number 2. Looks like CocoA has actually bypassed gas for quite a while now, and up to 14 supply with just the barracks coming down. So more than likely some sort of a one-racks fence.
Nope.
Well, no, just going for a late gas. We just saw the rally point there on the SCV, so just a 15 gas coming up.
Once again, we see that from him. I believe he did that in the first game, or it might have been a
Just
late
a very
14
late, yeah.
gas. So opting for a little bit of extra minerals before he gets the gas down. I don't really have a problem with that. It will delay any kind of Reaper or Marauder just by a little bit, but not the most important thing in the world to get that out a couple seconds earlier because, Reapers used to be so much more effective way back in the day before people realized exactly how to deal with them. Keep units in the proper position. Make sure you have the Xel'Naga towers so you can see them coming. I mean, players are so much more well-versed in dealing with Reapers now that it's not nearly as big of an issue. And we do have a scout returning for WhiteRa right now. WhiteRa still has not been scouted by CocoA. CocoA actually heading up to the top position and will make his way down to WhiteRa's base in a little bit. And once again, he is opening with that quick Reaper, and he will most likely be following this up with an expansion. The only question is whether or not he's going to drop it at the low ground or the high ground, and just how safe he wants to be.
And it looks like he is going to put that on the high ground, but in a position that it's very, very easy to drop it onto the low ground. Won't take a whole lot of time. Looks like an SCV does manage to make its way into the base. Not going to see anything terribly out of the ordinary. Ooh, WhiteRa actually throwing down second gas there. Was that scouted? Yes, it was. Just barely scouted by that SCV, so he is going to be aware of the presence of a second gas. WhiteRa actually putting up a second gateway right away as well. Curious to see how this makes CocoA respond to this. He does have his Reaper coming out.
And
now,
if you notice, the Reaper coming out so late is because if we go to CocoA's vision and look at his main, he actually scouted out his entire... CocoA's vision. He scouted out his entire main, looking for proxy pylons all around the edges of his base, checked around his natural as well, and that is just some very thorough scouting, really utilizing that early Reaper, and I actually love that from him. You're not going to get that Reaper in there and do a ton of damage anyway, and looks like he will be able to deny the natural, well, the probe anyway, that's going to be building the Nexus at the natural, and with that odd timing on the Reaper, WhiteRa probably not expecting that, going to send another probe out here, but that Reaper will be able to head back to the Xel'Naga towers now. Hopefully he doesn't lose it to this Stalker, needs to get it up on that cliff immediately, turning to the left right there. Ew, and it looks like he still will be able to get out just barely. Probably going to head back to his main through the top of the map.
And I will note as well, folks, that this is old Shakura's Plateau, so we do have destructible rocks at the back. These Xel'Naga towers are not completely surrounded by bushes. They are also much farther away from each other. So just interesting things to note as we move into this game, if you guys were curious about the map selection. And WhiteRa now does have 3 gates going into a robo facility. Once again, this build virtually mirroring what we saw last game, only this time with a higher sentry count to be able to force field this ramp in the event of any sort of units coming by. And it looks like CocoA goes ahead and pokes back in with that Reaper, does manage to steal another probe kill and gets himself right away. The Stalker on an intercept course and may actually catch up, and poor Reaper is going to die.
Poor guy. Well, his life was brief, but he did manage to take out 2 probes with him. Not quite. Well, I'd say he paid for himself in the amount of time that he denied that natural expansion, and just picking off that extra probe is, you know, why not? I'll take it.
Yeah.
So he's got that.
That's right.
And he did lose the Reaper. I would have liked to seen him, you know, get that Reaper out of there and control the Xel'Naga towers, but you can't always do that. And it looks like CocoA is going to do this timing push here off of 3 racks. I'm not sure if this is going to be able to inflict any kind of damage. He does not have stim at only about 10% right now, and we do have a bunch of zealots and sentries from WhiteRa. Hopefully WhiteRa doesn't lose this Stalker, though. Definitely going to want to keep that alive, and it looks like he is going to get that out of there just in time. CocoA trying to split off a Marauder and intercept that Stalker, but not going to work out. And CocoA wisely sending his units back to his natural. Really wasn't going to accomplish anything with that push timing, and he is, however, teching up relatively quickly here. We do already have a starport on the way, so CocoA is going to be able to do some early drops, and drops are very, very effective on a map like Shakura's.
And WhiteRa already going up to that Robo Bay again, so WhiteRa's build, like I said, almost mirroring what he did last time, but we do see the Warp Prism this game around, and that's kind of what I was waiting for in the last game, but there it is, Warp Prism making its way out. CocoA, on the other hand, with a much more Marauder-heavy composition, went for 3 racks before, or did 3 racks before Factory instead of 4. Looks like he does manage to pick off the Observer that was flying around as well. So yeah, so he does manage, or he does go for a much more Marauder-heavy composition, going to his Engineering Bay a lot earlier as well. So he's going to have a pretty powerful little army to start the game, but he is going to be, I don't know. I mean, this is going to be interesting. He's investing in tech more. I think his unit composition is a little bit better, but WhiteRa has pretty much been able to do his build at will once again, even going to that double forge.
Well, the thing is if you want to push at this timing before the Colossus come out, you're going to actually want a Marine-heavy composition. When the Marauder-heavy composition is so important is once those Colossus are out on the field and the numbers are starting to go beyond 1 and 2. Up until that point, having a much heavier Marine composition is actually really good. So maybe you wanted to flip the builds from last game to this game, get the Marauders much earlier in the last game and get the Marines he had in the previous game for right now, because if he had a very heavy Marine composition right now, he could do a pretty effective push, but it looks like he's going to push in the front and try and drop in the main at the same time. I don't know if this is going to work out for him, though. WhiteRa with great positioning, going to warp in some units at the main and try and deal with this drop.
Yep, absolutely, and those units were going right after the gateway, so they actually haven't done any damage yet. Now they're going to try and come at the pylon. They'll take that down, and at the same time, they're moving through the front, and this is actually going to take quite a bit out of WhiteRa here to hold this off. This is a lot of units here. He's not really engaging effectively, just moving all of his units through a choke. A Colossus is just about to pop itself out, though, but at what cost? Looks like CocoA is going to be able to take down one base. He overstims his units a little bit, so those are all very weak. And this Colossi will be able to clean it up. And beautiful force fields
right there.
Oh my god. Trapping all those units in the back and trapping some more with warped in zealots at the front. Is this Nexus going to go down?
He needs to keep that Nexus alive so bad.
The Nexus down to 17 points, and it does die.
Oh my goodness. WhiteRa taking a huge hit right there. A Nexus goes down. Several probes go down. Losing a majority of his army. Keep in mind, CocoA did lose a majority of his army as well, but not nearly as big of a deal. Wow. That was such... Ooh, we did have some zealot harassment going on, possibly at the same time.
Let's actually take a look, and no, it looks like that was actually seen at first. Those zealots haven't really done anything. They're going to make their way in now, though. Yeah, they don't have any kills apiece, so that war person was actually seen, and damage was done. Now WhiteRa going to try and make his way back. He's actually doing pretty good damage. This zealot already has 3 kills, trying to work his way back into this. 4 kills now, 5 kills now.
My goodness, zealots just absolutely cut through SCVs, 3 hits apiece. and they are devastating to a mineral line. If you leave them in there unchecked for just a little bit of time, as we saw right there, 5 SCVs already going down, and it looks like he's chasing that Warp Prism with a Viking. Not going to be able to get it. The Viking just a little bit off course right there. He was initially hot on the trail, but... Oh, does he have a second Viking as well? Is he trying to... Oh, so we have 2 Vikings looking to pinch off this Warp Prism here, but unable to find it, and he is warping a single Zealot into the top left-hand corner, maybe just for
pick it up and then move it in.
Yeah, pick it up and move it in, but look how far away he is. It's going to be a risky maneuver to try and do that at this point as well, although both of the Vikings have made their way back to the army of CocoA, and CocoA looks like he's going to try and press this home and take WhiteRa out here. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. Has WhiteRa managed to rebuild his army enough? He has indeed. I think he has more than enough to deal with this push from CocoA, and CocoA looks like he's going to go in here. No, he's going to stim and run wisely. Going to get out of there and save those units to fight another day.
Yep, absolutely. WhiteRa does have a pretty devastating army out, and CocoA comes back to do a little bit of damage, but then almost loses a medevac. Got to watch out for that.
Main.
And here we go. The Zealots are dropping their way. It looks like the Warp Prism might have gotten killed. Aha!
Wow.
Turret.
That turret just paid dividends. Actually killed a full Warp Prism right there. Not going to take any damage from those Zealots, and I think WhiteRa really needed that to work out for him again in order to really get back in this game. CocoA just getting so far ahead, and after that early push where he took out the Nexus, I can't help but think that WhiteRa, you know, what's going through his head right now? How is he going to get back into this? He needs to make something happen, and knowing WhiteRa, I think he's definitely capable of doing it. And like we said last game, this is a perfect example of a player who is staying in a game and trying to make something happen. WhiteRa could have easily GG'd and left that game. I've seen, you know, IDRA and CocoA leave in situations where they were actually better off. So got to hand it to WhiteRa for staying in there, playing with some heart, and trying to win this game.
Some way, somewhere, Slayers MMA is giggling. But let's take a look now. CocoA does have 1-1 upgrades for all of his bio. We already have +2 armor coming up now for WhiteRa, so he actually is going to have the upgrade advantage when that actually finishes. We'll see how he's able to utilize that. Although CocoA does have his next base down, that is pretty bad for WhiteRa. It looks like CocoA maybe going to move out at the same time. He does have quite the flock of Vikings. Taking a look back at WhiteRa's side of things, he only has 10 Stalkers out for the time being, but that is against 5 Colossi. He has 5 Colossi in that mix. That is a huge amount at this point.
Should we say squadron for Vikings?
I like it.
Flock for Mutas?
That's good.
This is Red Leader checking in. Gold Leader checking in.
Gold Leader.
So anyway, I don't know if his Vikings are going to be able to live as long as a squad from Star Wars. They might be taken out here because there are so many Stalkers out on the field right now for WhiteRa. And does he have Blink? No, not just yet. But he does have quite a few Colossus here, and these Colossus are just going to absolutely rip through CocoA if he decides to come up through the choke, and CocoA just needs to find a way to make something happen. He needs to find an entrance into WhiteRa's base, because WhiteRa is essentially just relying on, hey, you know, I'm not going to be able to get out and take my third. He's got full map control. He has his third, so CocoA's so far ahead, but WhiteRa is sitting back. He's continuing to get upgrades. He's continuing to add Colossus. And if he is allowed to do this unchecked and both players get to a situation where they're both at 200, all it takes, like we said, is one battle where WhiteRa comes up huge, and he will be back in this game immediately. Yeah, and WhiteRa is actually down by 12 workers, so that makes up a good portion of the supply difference as well. And he's better upgraded, especially now that +2 armor just finished. And we'll see if he decides to be aggressive on his own, or if he's just going to receive an attack. I'm really curious to see how the next couple of minutes goes. Looks like CocoA destroying the destructible rocks to give him a little bit more maneuverability. But yeah, I mean, both players playing very passive at this point. CocoA knows he's ahead. He's playing the macro game. He's just trying to get farther and farther and farther ahead. He is now maxed, so I'm curious to see if he saves up resources and takes another base and just waits on his production, or if he's going to try and crush in and just destroy his opponent. WhiteRa, though, is moving out at the same time. His charge lots are done. He's moving all of his Stalkers to the front here, and there's the stim.
Looks like we are going to force the engagement.
Ooh,
these
I don't know
Vikings,
if I like this position for CoCo at all.
No, these Colossi did so much damage, and the Vikings are starting to go down as well. Not all of these Colossi are going to fall. The Charge Lots are getting back in, and CoCo is losing so much here. So much. The last of the Vikings are going down. WhiteRa still has 4 Colossi remaining and has just flipped this game on its head and taken a huge lead.
Amazing engage right there from WhiteRa, hardly losing anything. Managed to stake out the entire Viking squadron, kill so many of his units. There were no ghosts in play. That would have been huge, and also losing almost all of his bio, and now WhiteRa just cleaning up the remaining bio, and it looks like he's going to take this game. What a comeback from WhiteRa. This is absolutely amazing. He lost his main Nexus very, very early on in this game and recovered from a huge deficit, was down on probes, and now he's camping the production facilities. My goodness.
Everything's going to die here. There are no reinforcements possible for CoCo at this point. It looks like WhiteRa is just sitting here, destroying everything he can. CoCo trying to go to another base here over at the 12 o'clock position, but I don't think that's going to be enough. More Zealots are reinforcing, and look at that. CoCo drops down the G and leaves the game. So WhiteRa manages to 2-0 CoCo in 2 awesome games. He does advance into winner's round, bracket number 2.
Unbelievable. That was so impressive from him right there. He just did so many little things to allow himself to come back into that game, playing a very passive style, sitting back at his natural, not trying to overcommit and head out on the map. It didn't give CoCo any opportunities to do damage, was just playing very safe, continued to macro up, got that charge, started getting his upgrades going. What did he end up there on his upgrades? He was 2-1, so had the 2 armor upgrades, couple that with Guardian Shield. It just made his force so resilient to Marines.
Absolutely.
There were no ghosts on the field for CoCo. I think that was a little bit of a mistake on his part. Even though there weren't High Templar out on the field, ghosts are still so important.
You know, and like you always like to mention, though, that +2, the better decision before the +2
Absolutely.
Weapons as well, because Vikings do 2 attacks, and so that armor upgrade basically does double duty. So really, really good decision-making out of WhiteRa. What a beautiful game. My heart is happy because I am a WhiteRa biased player, and can't wait to see what he has in the next round.
It's not only that. I know I like to mention the fact that Vikings have a double attack and the 2 armor is so important, but a lot of people don't even think about it like this. Guardian Shield is essentially chitinous plating for your entire army for 75 energy.
Exactly.
So if you think about it like that, I mean, when you put it in those terms, it's kind of like, wow, Guardian Shield is actually pretty amazing. Couple that with an additional +2 armor, splice the Vikings double attack. Your Vikings are essentially tickling the Colossus.
Yes.
And we kind of saw that right there. The Vikings were shooting at the Colossus the whole time, but they only managed to kill 2 of them. And in that time, the Stalkers were able to kill the entire squad. So, ooh.
Very, very well played out of WhiteRa. Guys, he is going to advance into winner's bracket number 2. CoCo was sent down to the loser's bracket, but he certainly has an opportunity to come back in this, so don't count him out. Guys, this was the IPL. If you've enjoyed it, check us out, IGN.com/IPL. You can also find us as @IGN Pro League on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Justin TV. Don't forget, folks, if you've enjoyed Pain User and Nice Commentary, check us out. You can find me at twitter.com/CatsPajamasSC2.
And you can check me out at twitter.com/PainUser.
So until next time, guys, peace.